hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Hello, this is Paul Stefan, and welcome to TV Free Baltimore's Movie Reviews. Now, take a look at this week's movie trailer.
Look what I found.
You can't watch this.
Au contraire, it's our duty to watch this.
This is evidence of a crime.
It's a crime, all right.
Amazing, huh?
What?
That it's all done on tape.
As far as I'm concerned, there's reason enough to reopen this case right now.
Collison thinks it's an inside job.
But I don't consider this case closed until I know who betrayed me.
So, who's the inside man?
I've got it narrowed down to the 6 of them.
What about Talbot?
Dunbar looks guilty as sin. He knows about the hidden cameras. That's a great
What
time.
kind of security guard breaks down his piece when he's on duty?
This guy.
Strike
Go
three.
back to the start.
How do you like Cal?
He's not your type.
What about her?
For the inside man?
I like Morty.
Why?
How about Collison?
Because it's always the one you least suspect. It's always
We're here today with the screenwriter of that film, which name is 21 Eyes. And that screenwriter who we have the privilege of being with today is Sean Paul Murphy. Putting this film together early 2000s, wasn't it?
Yeah, about 2000, whatever year it was released. Maybe it was at 6?
3, I think.
3, yeah. Yeah, once the script came, it was all put together in like 3 months.
You were able to put the whole deal together.
Yeah, we put the whole deal together in 3 months. It was very quick.
Now,
once
did
we
you
decided
have
to
a
do it.
lot of input? Because I know in Hollywood sometimes screenwriters are there. They have something to do with talking about casting and about other things. And
On this film, I had a huge amount of input.
You did?
You know, I was involved in all aspects of, because I was also going to edit it as well.
Oh, okay.
But I was involved in all aspects of casting and everything. So, and you know, it's just the nature of Lee Bonner and David Butler. They're great guys, and they wanted the input, and obviously they felt I had something to offer because
Right.
I was already offering it. And so, of all the films I've written,
yeah.
this one is definitely the closest to the script.
Ah.
And it was, you know, it was almost identical. The only variations is when the actors. I think we got to describe the nature of this film.
Yeah, tell us about the plot, because I mean, I was confused at two names. I've had 21 Eyes and I saw Replay.
Well, originally the film was called Replay
Okay.
because they're constant. Well, let me give the plot.
Go ahead, please.
So essentially, there are two different stories. One is stuff that happens over the course of a day in a jewel dealer whose place is robbed by 3 gunmen. There's bloodshed. One employee is killed, another loses her finger, and that is played straight. That is played like a theater piece, you know, because it was played live. There were no other angles other than the camera. So we had, in the main room where the robbery took place, I think we had 6 to 8 cameras set up.
Wow.
Seeing different angles. So that was, we could only afford to do 4 takes of that.
Oh, okay.
Because of all the bloodstained clothes and the
Right.
amount of time it took.
Right.
So the actors had to play it like a theater piece, and it isn't like you can get a second chance to do a line. So there were some changes, because sometimes if an actor made a mistake, everyone had to go with it. And we didn't care about the specific things they said, but there are a number of clues, because in reality, as the tape, it looks like it's an open and shut case.
Okay.
And the bad guys are killed, the diamond's safely put away. But as in the second story, you'll see that was not the case at all.
We don't want you to give it away.
Yeah, I don't want to give it away, but there is a mystery. But as long as the actors, there were like about 8 different major clues in that room.
Okay.
As long as the actors were where they were supposed to be, when there was a clue, it was okay. So what they said or how they got there didn't necessarily matter.
Were there rewrites or no?
No, there were no rewrites. There were no rewrites.
Okay.
You know, the actors were rewriting it if somebody would forget their line or say the wrong thing, and
Okay.
you know, and one of the reasons we picked the actors we picked, mainly the New York actors like Rebecca Mader and Nestor Serrano and all, is because we wanted people who would be calm and cool. But if one of the actors would get like, and that's the way Lee wanted it. He wants everybody to be cool and calm and as much as possible as it could be in a circumstance like that. But if one of the actors started ratcheting it up everybody else would have to ratchet it up as well. So it was an unusual case. So that's the raw material. The real story is what happens later that day at around midnight when two secondary detectives are given the task of like watching and logging these evidence tapes on the security cameras, and they're kind of very angry that they're being relegated to this like thankless job.
Right.
You know, especially since they consider the two main detectives to be somewhat of doofuses. And as they watch it, the pieces aren't working out right, and they begin to suspect that the case isn't what happened as they watch this case. And so we never see these two detectives. We only see what they're watching. So all you ever see in this film is a television screen.
You never see the detectives on camera.
You never see the detectives, one of which is played by Academy Award winner Fisher Stevens, the actor, and the other is played by Michael Buscemi, who is Steve Buscemi's brother.
Interesting.
And he sounds just like Steve Buscemi. And since it's a voiceover role, it's like we got Steve Buscemi for scale, you know. And he's very funny too.
Okay.
Both of those guys, they were very good. And the funny thing about their characters, those two detectives, those are the two detectives from our film previous one we wrote for them, Christopher Walken.
Oh.
Those are exactly the same two characters. We just picked those two guys because we liked the two detectives in that film.
And you took that and lifted.
We lifted those two detectives from the would-be Christopher Walken film and just placed them in here. Okay. You know, so essentially it's two movies. You have the movie that's really the movie that's happening on the screen, and then you have an entire voiceover world of the other detectives, and that's the real movie.
Right. Well, the interesting
and
thing,
it was called Replay. I forgot why we changed the name. I think at some point there was going to be a movie called Replay starring Brad Pitt and another thing. And that was getting us we were getting a huge number of hits on IMDb for our movie.
Oh, great.
And people kept putting Brad Pitt and whoever the female lead were. Because in IMDb you can add stuff, and we had to keep subtracting them because we didn't want to be dishonest. But we also, it was hard for people to understand the concept of the movie when they first saw it. So we ended up doing 3 different opens because we were in a lot of film festivals around the country. When you see the film, you'll see that it's really a film festival kind of movie, and people really enjoyed the movie. And although there's a lot of violence and it's a mystery, there's a lot of laughs in it too, and you could gauge the audience by how deep their understanding of the humor is, because certain things are only funny in context, so you really have to be paying attention. But it was taking about 10 to 15 minutes for people to really understand what was happening in the movie. Okay. So it was actually Barry Levinson who kind of came to our rescue. Oh. Barry Levinson saw a copy of the film, and he said, don't start, because originally we just started on the TV screen, and he said, start it with, he goes, show all the violence. He goes, forget the concept, just open it up, showing the robbery as vicious and grabby as you can. And then just go into the movie, and that's what we did. And eventually, it was called we called it 21 Eyes, and that open that Barry Levinson inspired us to do really sold the movie for us, and it was doing
right. Well, I was going to say that I think what I read about it, it's a great concept, and I think it would be great for a viewer. Maybe not then, but now, because people are more familiar with that kind of thing, is to say that you and the audience really become the detective.
That is Lee's whole thing.
Film.
Yeah, it is exactly. It's a POV film. I don't think that Hollywood had tried one since that Lady in the Lake with, back in the 40s. But no, it is. And they've subsequently did one of some first-person shooter film. Yeah, something Harry. I forgot what it was called. But this is a POV. It's another one is It was called Unfriended. It was a horror movie by Blumhouse.
Okay.
That was very that.
But I'm saying you guys were sort of
pioneers. We were first.
Of the genre.
We were the pioneer, and it's also a found footage film because although there's actual real time stuff going on, their only thing we see is the footage they found.
Right.
So it was also sort of a found footage film as well. So.
Was the footage part? Because we hope we'll show this. But when the detectives look at the footage, is the footage in black and white?
Some of it's in black and white and some of it's in color. Tends to be the workplace footage of the actual jewelry place is in black and white. Okay. And he also had cameras in his home, and in the home scenes are in color.
Okay, gotcha.
You know.
And speaking of what you talked about the actors, and again, people here may not understand. You say New York actors. You mean people are more stage trained, or just that they were? Because you said New York Hollywood actors, or the difference between a Hollywood actor. What did you mean by New York actor?
Well, we knew that the three leads, which would be Nestor, the owner of the shop, the secretary, and the security guard. We knew we needed really strong performances from them. So we got Lee. Lee, after directing a lot of commercials, began to direct a lot of television shows, Homicide, The Practice. So he was familiar with Nestor, had been on a number of his TV shows.
Right.
And we were also looking for that role. We also brought in the guy who was in Dennis Christopher, who was from one of my favorite films of the 70s, Breaking Away.
Breaking Away, right.
He wouldn't read for the role. He came in and talked to us about the role, but he was too big. He was too big of a star to read for it.
But he took it.
No, he didn't take it.
Oh,
We
he
wanted
didn't
Nestor.
take it. Whoops.
Lee had
Nestor.
worked with him in some crime television show, though. Yeah. So he came in and talked to us. But we were off. So we went up and we viewed a lot of actresses. Rebecca Mader had not been in any movies since prior to this.
Okay.
And she was our only choice. She was terrific, and. Subsequently, she was in, I think, not Species, too. I forgot. She was in a horror movie that came out first.
Oh, it came out first, but she had filmed yours
shot
first.
ours. And I tell you what, Chance Kelly, who, if you see him, he was in House of Games, and he's on a lot of TV shows, too, now. But we gave him his first speaking role, and he was great. And Nestor's been in a million things. So we picked up those three actors there. The rest of the people that you see are all local actors, and you talk about theatrical trained actors.
Right, yes.
We have one guy, and I forgot the name of the actor. He plays a Shakespearean actor.
Oh, okay.
Who's because a friend of mine who I used to work for used to sell jewelry, used to sell this cheap costume jewelry. But the company that hired him only hired actors because they felt actors make the best salespeople.
Okay.
So he was always an actor and a jewelry salesman. So this guy was inspired by it. And this guy in the film is really good. But we had, at one point, he's reading Shakespeare. Okay. So we're casting these roles locally.
Okay.
And one of the actors is in there, and he goes, I just want to tell you something. He goes, there's a scene from Macbeth that the character's reading. You're missing a word in the third line. He goes, I've directed this play. And as opposed to playing the role, I've also directed it. Wow. And you're missing a line, and you're missing a word here. And he said what it was supposed to be. And I'm like, we took it out. We didn't like it. I think he was offended. But, one thing to learn is if you want a role in a film, don't insult the script to the director, the producer, and the writer. Also, Lee also co-wrote the script as well.
Okay.
So that's the way not to get in a movie.
Oh, gotcha. That's good for people to know.
But the rest of the cast, there were a lot of local guys, and they were quite lovely. And then we shot the voiceover stuff. We did all up in New York as well. Recorded it up there as well.
Well, that's great.
And Fisher was very hot. And Lee knew Fisher, so Fisher did it. And this is why the film is currently not in release now, is because at the time we were in a hurry to make this film for Sundance, to have it done. It didn't get into Sundance, but we hurried.
Okay.
So we took, we took the actors we could get at the moment. We were offered a ton of actors because the leads are voiceover roles.
Right.
So it's very easy. They can come in and record the entire movie in one afternoon.
Right.
So we were offered William Shatner. At one point, we were seriously considering going with Fred Ward, who was one of my favorite actors from the 80s and 90s. Jason Lee, who was just in Almost Famous, then he did that My Name is Earl show. And Janine Garofalo to play the office secretary. We could have had them for shockingly little money, but we couldn't work the schedules out.
It's a shame.
It is a shame, and that's why the film's not in release now. So when it got released, we took a 7-year contract with this company, Vanguard. And Lee was never satisfied with the movie because he's like, we should have waited, we should have gotten bigger names in it. And that's where we're at now. The rights have reverted to us, and Lee wants to redo the film with bigger names.
Oh, wow.
And
so this is where you are now. They're talking about, hey, let's do a remake.
We can either remake the entire film or just remake the voiceover roles.
Oh.
And this is, so a very big, I'm not going to name the name, a very big television and movie producer expressed interest in doing that with
Oh,
us.
good.
And I think I don't think it went through. I'd have to find out. But we were still thinking of doing it ourselves. In fact, we're going to have one more meeting before I go to talk to a casting director about
Okay.
it. But also, when the film originally came out, another big television producer wanted to do a series based on this concept.
Interesting.
And we were so excited because Lee was he was a well-known television director, and he was handled by Gersh Agency, and we were very excited. Then that producer's wife died.
Oh.
And then it's sort of like, well, how long do you wait before you say, oh, by the way?
Yeah.
Well, by the way, what about our show? Don't you still want to do a TV show with us?
Yeah,
So we
morning
that just,
period.
that's like, we just never approached him again. He approached, I don't know how far it went, but
And nobody's
we never
taken this
went there.
concept. Have they done this yet on television?
no, they haven't.
Okay.
So,
Because I could see it as a show just called POV or something.
yeah, no, so
but,
it is possible. So we're in a position now where, I mean, if I had, I don't want to say that there's disharmony in the group because we're all great friends, but if I had my way, I'd have it up on Netflix, Amazon, and some other things. I could make arrangements to have that done.
The reboot or the original?
The original, but they're like, well, let's not put the original up there until we exhausted the possibility of doing the reboot of it. So.
Well, hopefully you
And
can.
Lee did do the. I know I sent you a copy. It was the. It was a minor variation of it, and we're probably going to call the reboot by the new name. Do you see what I see?
Oh, okay, because I thought we saw something that was called 22 Eyes.
Yeah, no, we're not going to add a camera to it. Okay. And by the name 21 Eyes is we counted up all the security cameras.
The security
in the film.
cameras, right?
So there were 21 security cameras
Okay.
that we avail.
Okay.
So that's
Right.
So that's essentially. I'm sure anyone. I hope you break our conversation at least and show the trailer so that people will.
Well, the people will hopefully see
hopefully they'll see the whole movie.
that you'll allow us to show if you guys don't hold us back.
I think that we'll allow you to, if you're kind enough to have us on. I think we'll try to do that.
I mean, a part of it, you talk about redoing it, maybe just doing your voiceover. So since, again, we haven't seen it yet, the film in its entirety, is the secretary also just a voiceover?
Yes, the secretary, the police secretary is a voiceover.
Oh, because I was going to say,
the company secretary is Rebecca Mader.
Rebecca Mader, that's what I thought.
And I tell you what, she was great. She was so happy. She came down to Baltimore. We shot it in Baltimore.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
you
we
used
shot
Baltimore locations?
Yeah, we used
exclusively
for the shooting. We the offices were the offices of another director in Baltimore named Peter Mullet.
Okay.
So the jeweler's offices, and that's in right 2 blocks above Northern Parkway in Pimlico area, up near the racetrack. And that's where we shot the robbery. The house, the guy, Nestor Serrano, who plays Collison, his house is actually, oh God, I'm forgetting Vince Peranio's house, and he's the major art director. He was the art director for all of John Waters' films and The Wire and all. And we shot that in his personal house, which is very eclectic, which is a couple of row houses knocked together.
Interesting.
Down in the Fells Point area.
So there was no studio sets.
No, everything was shot in real locations, and we also shot at BWI. And this was we were kind of afraid that we were not going to be able to get into BWI.
Yeah.
But they were only too happy to have us. And we also shot a hospital scene at Good Samaritan Hospital.
Oh, okay.
So
it's good to know.
Yeah.
Especially around here, people want to see those locations.
Yeah, so if you ever want to see what Vince Peranio's house looks like, now you can.
Or it did 15 years ago.
Or it did 15. I'm sure it's similar. It's a really fantastic house.
Because my concern with the idea of you saying leave the rest of the footage alone but just redo the voiceovers, is there anything in the footage that at this point in 2008, if you saw it on TV, it's dated?
No, I don't think so. Okay. Other than the fact that it would be tapes. Because now everything would be digital.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying that...
well, our main problem was because at the time, most security camera footage was standard, square.
Yeah.
And that was going to date our film now that everything's widescreen.
Right.
But we defeated that by... now if you see the film, you see it in a box. Oh. Before it used to be you saw it just with the TV. Now you see the TV and you see the stuff on the side.
Because you've got
now it is a widescreen movie.
Right.
That was the cheapest fix in the world.
Okay,
to do
that
that.
you could do. Easy.
That's the genius of Lee and Dave doing that sort of thing.
Okay, and there's no
figuring that out.
problem like with the actors from years ago to say they're willing to.
No,
That'd be released
I'm sure there's some sort of contract.
15 years later.
We'll just have to pay. They're already in the movie.
To pay them again, or I don't
I'm
know.
sure. Well,
Something
I'm
has to
sure
be done.
there's some sort of SAG thing that we'd have to consider.
And of course, they talk about looking for names, even for names to do the voiceovers.
Yeah.
But now Rebecca Mader is a name she wasn't.
Yeah,
in 2003.
exactly. If this movie had been released after she was on Lost, it'd be an entirely different story.
Right, and we're now at Lost, and I know from Once Upon a Time, and she's
Yeah.
done other things.
Yeah, she was terrific. But here's the thing: there's a scene where she has some nudity, and actually, it's not technically speaking nudity
It's not nudity, okay.
because it was topless. Because they're like, no nudity, and it's like,
Oh, in her contract.
yeah. Well, this is the whole story.
Oh.
Is that no? But I didn't realize in the business that topless does not constitute nudity.
Ah, gotcha.
Nudity is totally nude.
Right.
So
Exactly.
topless is, and I'm sure she was not happy to, necessarily do this. And she was also wearing a negligee in some of the stuff
Scenes.
too.
Okay.
So, well, it's funny about the negligee because I was shooting the behind the scenes footage.
Yeah.
This is the job you give the screenwriter on a low budget movie. So I was doing interviews with people, and I'd keep walking up to Rebecca and say, "Hey, Rebecca, you want to do your interview now?" And she said, "No, let's wait till I'm in the negligee." And just like 4 times. And trust me, when I was I'm married now, but when I was single, when
Yeah.
women say, "No, wait till I'm in the negligee," it never happens. So finally, we shoot the scene in the negligee, and she's done, and they wrap the scene, and she's like, "Sean, let's do the interview." So she did want to do the interview in her negligee.
In the negligee.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing about the nude thing. So the topless scene, because the guy Nestor Serrano plays, Collison is a perv.
Okay.
He's
But
a
she
voyeur.
does
Yeah,
play play topless.
I don't know if she is in this version or not, but I think
Okay.
so. So he's obviously he would be, and he's her girlfriend. Obviously, he would be taping her.
Yeah, sure.
And also, we needed these bored detectives something to watch that would keep them interested.
Keep them awake.
Keep them awake. It's late night the story-wise, it's late night.
Right.
So one of the first tapes they put on is her undressing in front of a camera.
Wow, yeah.
So
Part of that's in the trailer.
yeah, part of that's in the trailer, but you don't see everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, so when you do the contract, it's sort of like they say she can appear topless for 4.5 seconds.
Ah.
Like an agreement with the thing.
They even time it.
Yeah, they even timed it. So, so the first problem we have is she plays the scene, and she's like topless, for like 7 seconds.
Oh, too long.
Well, no, so we call the But here's the thing: imagine you're a detective and you see a beautiful woman undressing
Sure.
on a tape.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're going to back it up and watch it again.
Right.
And then call some of your buddies into the room
Say, hey, look at this.
and take a look at this, and then play it in slow motion. So
And did they do that on?
yeah, so in the
movie?
original edit of the film, they run through this scene for about 40 seconds. Keep watching
Okay,
it.
okay.
And so I'm like, I don't know. So Lee calls
The agent? Or?
the agent, and it's like, goes, okay, we have some problems with the topless. And the agent's like, what's the problem? She goes, well, the contract says like 4.5 seconds, and it took her 7 seconds to play through the scene. And the guy's like, well, if it takes her 7 seconds to play through the scene, it takes her 7 seconds, no problem. Lee's like, well, not so fast. He goes, well, you understand the concept of the film. It's people watching these tapes. He goes, yeah, I understand that. And he goes, well, then the people rewind it and watch it again. They watch it again. Yeah, and then they rewind it and watch it in slow motion. And they're like, how long is this? Oh, it's like 40 seconds. It's like, nah. At least like, well, it's integral to the story.
Ah, there we go. The
To
nudity
use this isn't complete. He goes, and I tell you what, if we, it would be unnatural for these characters to watch it, not comment on it, and watch it
right,
again.
right.
If you don't let us show it as it is, we're not going to include it at all.
Oh.
And you know what the agent said? Okay.
There you go.
So there is no nude scene in the movie. So,
Gotcha.
that's right.
That's a good thing to know. But I mean,
Yeah.
it used to be that the women had said, "Well, do you do nudity? Well, only if it's integral to the plot."
And it was definitely integral. But I'm just as well we didn't have it, and I don't think she's appeared like that in any other films. So
Really?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I got the impression, at least, she's kind of okay or proud with her body, but not about
She
nude.
seemed to be. She
necessarily
she
nude.
was certainly waiting to do their interview until she got into the
And other
negligee.
things I've seen her in, or just even photos. I mean, she's not.
I'm gonna have to check her out on Google.
Walking around on bikinis and stuff.
Yeah,
and Lost in other places.
Yeah,
But,
she was
in Maxim
She was
magazine.
great. She also loved shooting the machine gun.
Okay. Wow.
Because it's just in
That's
order
on the
for her
trailer,
to handle
too.
the weapon,
Yeah.
you have to go out with the trainer and learn how to do it. And afterwards, she was back. Just I got to learn. I learned how to shoot a machine gun.
Yeah.
So it was good. And Chance Kelly. If you look at the movie, you'll see he's in a ton of stuff.
Would like
he
to
was
know
like
what he
the
does now.
Godfather in that HBO series about the Iraq War, which is called Generation Kill.
Okay.
He was the Godfather, the gravelly-throated commander of the
interesting.
unit.
Interesting.
And he was in a ton of TV shows, usually
Just
like a bad guy or a henchman.
Just
and he
like
was,
Nestor was.
Yeah, and he was Kevin Spacey's bodyguard in the first season of
True Detective?
Kevin Spacey and
Kevin Spacey. House of Cards.
House of Cards.
Right.
His character dies. His character dies
so they
in the
kill him
film of
off.
cancer,
Okay.
so he was gone.
Yeah.
But he was such a great find. He was perfect for the film.
I mean, who found all these people? Because you're talking about now. If you look at this film now, you say these people weren't so well known, if known much.
Well,
then
there was a.
and they are now.
There was a glow on Rebecca. I think it was Jane Brinker and a guy Danny Roth in her office that really picked out. Found these people for us.
Found Nestor
Well, Nestor Lee knew from working with him on a television show.
But these other people like Chance and Rebecca.
Yeah, and Rebecca. I mean, I remember Danny coming to us and saying, she's going to make it. She's really going to do it. She's going to get something going. You should jump on her. And quite frankly, she gave the best performance.
Out of everybody in the cast.
Everyone we saw.
Everyone you saw for that role.
Yeah, and the main thing was she was so cool and collected, but she's a little more hysterical in this film because she had to match the tone of the other actors in that take. Because we had 4 takes, but in the end, only one of them was perfect. Where all the clues were in the right place, and because of the nature of the thing, we couldn't cut from take to take to take.
Right.
So it had to work.
So it was hard as an editor, to do that. Yeah.
Well, it's actually
your choices were few, right?
My choices were few, so it made it easy. There was actually some reviewers who really praised the editing. I'm like, the editing was already dictated in the script. It was the performances that were the thing. We edited the actual visual part of the movie in a couple days.
Okay.
But laying into voiceover, and Lee and I are great friends, but we were bickering a bit about what take and. Lee, well, not about what take is Lee. If it didn't sound natural to Lee, he wanted to cut it out. And I'm like, it's a funny joke, and he's like, it's not working, And part of it was that the two detectives, Fisher Stevens. Fisher was leaving. We had to get him in New York, and he was leaving to do a movie in Toronto or something. So we only had him for 5 hours. So we only could do him we originally intended to shoot the two main voiceover guys together so they could play off each other.
Right.
But because we didn't have that much time with Fisher, we did him separately, and then Michael Buscemi obviously had to be separate as well.
Right.
And the funny thing is, neither of them had seen the film, and Buscemi didn't realize what was supposed to be a joke and what wasn't supposed to be a joke, and it kind of freaked him out because we were in the control room and he's in there and he'll say a line and he'll say it completely seriously like his character would, and then we'd all start laughing.
Oh.
And he'd wonder if he'd done something wrong.
Oh.
And we're like, oh, no,
guy.
it's supposed to be that way. So.
Now, it sounds like a lot of it was almost like you're saying, like some people doing something we have to do is editing in camera, sort of like while you're filming. And
so no, that's definitely the visual parts of that film were edited in camera, essentially.
thank you for being here. And,
Well, thanks.
And we'll have you back.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So, folks, there we go. There's our first episode in TV Free Baltimore's movie reviews. And until next time, keep watching those films.
hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.